The Roundtable is powered by Patreon, including supporters such as Criger, who currently has a full-blown series in production. Space, Angel Wings, War. I highly encourage you to check out both their trailer and casting call, alongside dropping a follow on Twitter and Instagram. Trust me, with web series, anything can blow up at any moment. You don't want to miss out. If you want to help the Roundtable grow, consider checking us out over at Patreon, but no pressure, and a link will be in the description. With a better understanding of the circumstances that left Steven Universe's world vastly unexplored in the animated series, I think a lot of fans will find themselves lamenting at what could have been for the unknown. But in my opinion, violinist and co-composer Jeff Ball said it best. That simply means you're craving more of the show. And craving more indeed. Since the conclusion of Steven Universe Future, life as I know it has, well, remained uneventful because of quarantine. Wash your hands, stay home when possible. But it is a little weird no longer looking forward to a brand new installment of the Steven Universe franchise. A feeling that drives me to speculate the various aspects I've been lamenting over in my spare time. One of which being the confirmed 100% canon fact that every single fusion we've seen in the series have their own Homeworld single gem equivalent. Save for Steven's two organic fusions and the cluster, of course. Sadly, we only have a few examples of this in the acknowledged canon. Hessonite, Demantoid, Pyrope in the Light games, Snowflake Obsidian, and assumably any quartz soldier variations such as Zebra Jasper and Ocean Jasper. The closest fusions we have to those being Smoky Quartz and Rainbow Quartz. But don't you want to know more? What about the equivalents we didn't see? How much do single gem equivalents differ from their fusion counterparts? And how much are they alike? Well, today, we're going to go over what we know about Homeworld single gem equivalents, and I also want us to dip our toes into that crazy pool of possibilities. Hopping around and taking a stab at what some of these unseen Homeworld gems could be like, and what their duties were prior to Era 3. With all that said, let's dive in, and the best place to start is actually a few of the aforementioned gems that are canon single gem equivalents in the story. The Garnets, Hessonite, Pyrope, and Demantoid, whom unfortunately were relegated to these video game side stories, Save the Light and Unleash the Light, which is really unfortunate because let's be real, these will only become more isolated minor stories with time that a lot of fans aren't aware of. There's no guarantee that these games will be available years from now, and people who get into the show by binging will have no idea that this material even exists because it's not going to be marketed towards them. And fans would have no reason to assume it would be a canon adventure because we live in an age where so many mobile games can just be a brand dropped into a brand new gimmick. It becomes a real shame due to the fact that these three Garnets actually inform us a lot about the single gem equivalents, as again, they actually aren't too far off from the fusion counterparts. For example, fusions seem to become gems that are of combined status of their components. Using the Garnets as an example, our Crystal Gem Garnet is comprised of Ruby and Sapphire. We already know how that factors into Garnet's array of abilities, but it does factor into why Garnet identifies as, well, a Garnet. Sapphire is a high-ranking diplomatic gem, while Ruby is a low-ranking soldier equipped for action. Combine those together, you get a Garnet, a glorified, decorated, and determined leader. That's right, just like how our Garnet served as a great leader for the Crystal Gems, Hessonite was the commander leading gems in the war, namely our Nephrite aka Centipedal. We can assume this position applies to all Garnets, as these three were all gifted light prisms, alongside Pyrope and Demantoid formerly having dominion over colonies, which they still fought control over in Era 3 as seen in Unleash the Light. But yes, Garnets are natural leaders. As seen with Hessonite and Pyrope, they're shameless and proud of themselves, much like our Garnet. After all, she has bops such as Made of Love and that awesome scene where she stood up to Blue Diamond. That empowerment and self-love, it was basically a courageous endeavor for our Garnet considering her circumstances, but for other Garnets, it just comes with the territory. Pyrope's pretty snooty after all. And yeah, much like our Crystal Gem Garnet, single gem Garnets on Homeworld evidently tend to have both afros and monobrows, although the shoulder pads can vary. Over the course of Steven Universe and Steven Universe Future, as Garnet came out of her shell and spread her wings, she became pretty blunt and straightforward, something that is present in Hessonite, Pyrope, and Demantoid. Not to mention, all of these gems are pretty great at fighting. Like, Pyrope can fight with fans. Fans! The biggest difference is that our Garnet is humble, while the other Garnets were put on the pedestal. They were made to believe that they were the best of the best, and that if the diamonds can't lead Homeworld, they'll just have to do it themselves. But unfortunately, their egos were so big that it got the better of Pyrope and Demantoid, who end up pooping themselves in the climax of Unleash the Light, while Hessenite is given a wake-up call at the end of the previous game, Save the Light, becoming a vigilante hero of sorts in Unleash the Light. You would love to see it. And yeah, when applying all of this to the other fusions on Homeworld, we can surmise quite a lot, but I think even more questions arise. So I picked a handful of fusions, those who I imagine their single gem equivalents would be the most peculiar on Homeworld. What in the hell could they even be doing? And applying the traits of the fusions to these gems, I think we can get a pretty decent idea. For example, how about the very first fusion we saw in the series, aside from Garnet? Opal! Now, considering Opal can come in a variety of colors, I'm not gonna say which court an Opal would be on in particular, but rather make the argument that each court can have different Opals that either have different weapons or are suitable for different terrains. If you take an Amethyst who's a court soldier, and a Pearl who is very versatile as just a gem servant or slave, I think you would get a gem who's a soldier, but more of an assist than anything. Not necessarily the gem who's running across the battlefield throwing hands. Someone who can help a fellow mineral out, but almost keep a little bit of a distance from the core battle, which luckily would be easy for our Opal, considering she's equipped with bow and arrows. But that got me thinking, what if all Opals naturally summon long-range weapons? Because I believe they could be gems on the front lines. Imagine in the formation of an army, you have a dozen or so Opals at the top, scattered in with a few rubies, firing away at any approaching forces. Or let's say if a Homeworld controlled planet was under attack, an opposing force raiding their base. I imagine the Opals would have their designated hiding in plain sight positions, where they can just snipe away the enemies. Pretty straightforward stuff, but now let's shift gears over to a different kind of gem. One whom I believe would actually give us insight into another big mystery, White Diamond's Court. That gem being none other than Rainbow Quartz. Now hear me out. You may be thinking, but Rainbow Quartz isn't white or grayscale or anything. Why would they be under White Diamond's court? Well, let's remember what White Diamond says and what Rebecca Sugar has said about White Diamond. White Diamond sees herself as pure light and every color of that light. She has identity issues. She sees every gem as herself and herself as every gem. Like literally, it's not even a metaphor. That's just how White Diamond saw the world and still kind of sees it going off her brand new power, letting others puppet her. So I imagine any rainbow gems who sport multiple colors and you wonder, okay, which diamond made them? Because it is canon that you can tell which diamond created a gem due to the color of that gem. Therefore, if a gem is purple, for example, they would have been created by blue diamond and pink diamond. But for some gems, you really can't tell. There's just so many colors, and some of them you can't make with just yellow or blue, yellow, and pink. Thus, I believe it makes sense that the most colorful gems would belong to the most powerful court, which would be White Diamond's court. There would be white gems. There is a white gem at the end of a single pearl rose that we just never actually properly saw, and it still haunts me. I'm sure that gem could have been from White's court. That being said, I think just like White Diamond herself, White's court would have light-based abilities and duties, essentially maintaining the affairs of gemkind and the gems themselves. For example, if a gem is suffering from a gemstone related issue, something wrong with the actual gemstone, or maybe even they desire a different shift in hue, though I doubt that would be tolerated before Era 3, a gem under White Diamond's court would be able to handle it. However, Rainbow Quartz is, well, a quartz, which would mean she's more than likely a quartz soldier. However, both of the Rainbow Quartz fusions we've seen do not resemble soldiers at all, and I just believe that's because of who their equivalents were. And this is actually one that's a bit more challenging to say, oh, you take the status of a blank and blank because Rose was secretly a diamond and Steven is a diamond. Their fusions, however, at least in naming schemes, works off of Rose Quartz logic. So if anything, keeping the diamond presence in mind, I think Rainbow Quartz could be the ultimate quartz soldier. Imagine the peaks of Amethyst and Jaspers, but stronger. The difference being that Rainbow Quartzes have light manipulation, which could directly impact the enemy gem. For example, imagine a rainbow beam of energy surging from a Homeworld Rainbow Quartz. It hits the enemy gem right in their gemstone, and they desaturate a bit in color. almost like a nerfed version of White Diamond's mind control. Maybe the rainbow quartz would just be able to influence the gem, or maybe with a different beam, the opposing gem still desaturates a bit, but then their form horrifically falls apart, like when Garnet was to stabilize. But then, when the gem tries to reform, until the effects of the beam wears off, every reformation would be severely messed up. Gems reforming into the different states Amethyst found herself in when her gemstone was cracked. I mainly drew influence from Rainbow 2.0's moveset and Unleash the Light, said ability being rainbow beams of light firing away at the enemy. But shifting gears from Rainbow Quartz, I want to focus on another fusion whose Homeworld gem equivalent probably raises a lot of question marks in your head. What in the hell could they even be? I am of course referring to the 90s mascot known as Sunstone. Look, I love Sunstone. They're a riot, they're a fun time. I want them to be the host of an anthology series where they use their multiverse future vision, yes I just made that up, to look into alternate timelines. One episode we can get Spinel as a crystal gem in the Gem War, or we can get, Steven's mother is Yellow Diamond, stuff like that. I think that'd be an interesting series, and I think Sunstone as a host, like sitting on the Dove set short set, that would be fuego. That being said, if Homeworld Sunstones look anything like the fusion, the diamonds would have shattered them on sight, let's just be honest. That's a literal smiley face for a head. It works when it's Steven and Garnet, but you cannot tell me we have this, and then this. Though, again, we have wall gems, which look like that, so... Alright, getting to the point. Aside from a drastic shift in appearance, what would be interesting about a Homeworld Sunstone is that it would dip its toes further into elemental gems. As crazy as it is to say, this is something I feel as if we barely dipped our toes to in the series. Yes, we have Lapis Lazulis, who are water gems and they terraform. Sapphire has ice powers, but she's used for future vision. When I say elemental gems, I mean gems specifically suited for a certain climate, a certain element. We actually were properly acquainted with two of these gems in Steven Universe Future, Snowflake Obsidian and Larimar, as Snowflake's Obsidian's purpose was to dig ice trenches for Homeworld's armies. Meanwhile, Larimar created ice sculptures for the diamonds. Wait, so that would mean the diamonds had Larimar create an ice sculpture for Pink during the Gem War if Larimar was on Earth. So literally to compensate for the war, the diamonds were just like, have an ice sculpture. Yeah, so take this and all of their advice into consideration. It's really not a surprise that Steven's mother had so many issues, huh? But these two gems weren't created for any purpose aside for the element they were designated for. They were objectively created to just be ice gems and nothing more. But that would mean there'd be gems for other elements, including fire. And that's where I believe Sunstone lies. I essentially could see Sunstone as the reverse Snowflake Obsidian. Maybe not digging fire trenches, but I imagine this is either a soldier or commander gem who was designed to serve on solar planets and hotter climates. But because the fusion consists of a Garnet and Rose Quartz, we have to imagine this would be an elite gem. Someone who holds more power than the average Garnet. That just sounds like such a fun adventure, Steven on this fire video game level type planet, and then counter a Homeworld Sunstone. The possibilities give us more of the show. Maybe one day I'm content, but I just want to see more because I like fan service. Anyways, Elite Fire Gem knows how to pack the heat. Considering our Sunstone also shows skills of leadership, I assume Homeworld Sunstone would as well. And although normal gems can seemingly still function in heat and lava and magma, going off Bismuth, I can imagine that could still be a crutch of some kind if you're an ice gem, gems that really thrive in colder climates. I think the best way to describe Homeworld Sunstone would be just the strongest version of a ruby. Like if you beeped up a ruby to its full potential and it had a wild Pokemon-like evolution, that would be Sunstone. And last but not least, I want to touch on just a variety of the fusions we've seen under one big category, and that's the larger, multi-limb, almost kaiju-like fusions we see. Sugalite, Malachite, Alexandrite, Obsidian, the list goes on. I feel as if most of these do have a Homeworld equivalent, maybe not Obsidian considering we have Snowflake Obsidian, but regardless, I believe these would all categorize under Homeworld Beast. What purpose would Homeworld have in creating gems this big, who are clearly about punching first and asking questions later? Well, they have armies that have fought many battles. And considering the life forms we saw in Jungle Moon, I would not be surprised if Homeworld went against some huge, monstrous creatures. Essentially, average-sized gems, no matter how strong, may not be enough to take on some of the alien creatures Homeworld encountered when conquering colonies. So they fought fire Pyro Fire, creating their own animalistic beast. Imagine Malachite, but instead of the personality of Lapis and Jasper, they would have just behaved like your typical Marvel movie alien army. Terrifying, right? Homeworld seemed to really appreciate efficiency, and considering Sukalite already has a knack for destruction, I really can't help but to assume that their Homeworld equivalent would not be too far off, and that they would use Malachites for more water or liquid-based environments. Maybe colonies that mainly consist of oceans. Sukalites would be more for on land, and Alexandrite, give me more time to think on that. For most of these gems, I feel as if their moveset would more or less be the same, unless they are a special variant like, again, Ocean Jasper or Snowflake Obsidian, which I think means regular obsidians on Homeworld just dig regular trenches, if I'm correct. Yeah, we'll probably never know. But I do want to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Is there anything about this you disagree with? What other gems are you curious about? Drop your own speculations and interpretations in the comments below. And you could also tweet at me at AllStrickFox. We're also on Instagram. And special thanks to ARTWITHKODA for not just the thumbnail, but all of the art that this thumbnail is comprised of and sending me the speed paints over. Please, please, please give him a follow over on Instagram at ARTWITHKODA. He also has a Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube channel all at the same handle. Links will be in the description below. Help that type of grow by either becoming a member of this channel or supporting us over at Patreon. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please do a like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. AllStrickFox, signing out.